What is your game of the year from 2020? I'm inviting your nominations, then I'll make a selection and we'll vote on the games on the channel, and hopefully before the year is out we'll have a winner. So once again, I'd like your suggestions for game of the year. It could be a classical chess game. It might be a rapid or even a blitz game. It could be played online. I'm not going to restrict it, but it should have something special. It could be because it was really dramatic. It could be that it decided a tournament. We've had a lot of drama in the online tournaments. In fact, we've had an enormous amount of drama considering the number of online tournaments, for example, that Magnus Carlsen and his Play Magnus group have organised. But you might think, well, there's more value in classical games. I'd be interested to hear your views. And I've been looking back at some of the classical tournaments that have taken place this year. So if we go back to January, then of course we have the Tartar Steel tournament. There was the Aeroflot Open, and that was sensationally won by a young Azerbaijani player, Aydin Suleimanli. Then, of course, there was the Candidates Tournament, or half the Candidates Tournament was played in March, and there were some brilliant games played there. We had Biel, that was played over the board as well in the summer. Well done to Biel for getting that organised. What have I missed out? There's the Bundesliga, have I mentioned that already? There was Norway Chess. These are all over the board tournaments. So there is a lot out there. And there was the online Olympiad. Don't forget that fantastic Shirov game, of course. But I'm going to take you right back to the Gibraltar Masters, and there was a brilliancy prize awarded to this game between Anna Muzychuk and her opponent Ori Kobo, who's from Israel. In fact, I already posted one absolutely brilliant game from Gibraltar way back at the start of the year, and that was the game that David Navarra won. You might check that out. It's on the channel. But anyway, this game was awarded a brilliancy prize, and well, I might include these in our final nomination. I'm not sure how many games I'm going to have as the final selection, but who knows? This might be one of them. Let's take a look. So Anna Muzychuk, she is Grandmaster from Ukraine, and she's currently rated number 7 in the world in the women's list. She's incredibly experienced. She's very good at blitz and rapid. She has been rated over 2600, one of the few women to pass the 2600 barrier. So, she is a class act. And it's a Taimanov. But it's clear that Muzychuk was well prepared. She'd done her research extremely well. And this is, one of the main lines that White can play. Basically, White is setting up to castle on the queen side, and that makes life very dangerous for both players. So these bishops have potential on these diagonals, but actually, therefore, it seems very sensible for White to sidestep. And the king reaches the queen side. Of course, that's not without danger itself, because Black can break open like this on occasion, but it starts to get very tactical. Castle's kingside, and the most popular move here is Queen h5. Muzychuk goes for the h-pawn, h4, and I'm basing my comments here on her notes in New in Chess magazine. Superb magazine, by the way. Do check that out. And here, Muzychuk comments that b4, of course, is possible, but she judged that White's attack was going to be stronger than Black's. It's interesting, in fact, these pieces, or particularly the bishop on b7, slightly slow down black's queenside play. In the meantime, white's play is actually very fast. You can see how black's king is going to be broken open there with a combination of these moves. So anyway, h4 just played, and now f5. So that blocks the f pawn. Seems reasonable. But g4, she wants to crack things open. d5, Muzychuk says this is the best move. Fine, I'll believe her. She's obviously studied the position in depth. Takes on d5. Knight takes queen takes. So material is still level. And rook he1. But you can see that pawn has blocked out the bishop on d3. And so there's no immediate attack on the king side. And these bishops and queen control important squares down these diagonals. So Muzychuk switching the rook into the middle, and she has some control over the e-file. If rook e8, that's really the move we want to make, then white gets 2 rooks for the queen. I mean, white's pieces are extremely well coordinated, and the attack continues. So that's good. So basically at the moment, because white has control over the e-file, then black cannot contest. So that's why Kobo dropped the queen back to f7. Bishop c3, now that really is a wonderful piece, and as we're going to see, it plays a key role in the rest of the game. Now, rook e8 and bishop e5. So that bishop just locks itself into the middle, very nice, rook e6. And here, well, Muzychuk actually says probably would have been better to play c4 here to try to use the bishop on that diagonal, but she found a really interesting plan, and an unusual plan, I have to say. Queen f1 looks a little bit strange. It works out brilliantly. She actually says that black's best defense here is h5 and g6 and king h7, which is pretty unusual to sort of take a time out and play like that. Let's see what happens instead. Rook f8, queen h3, and now she thinks a4 is a good move actually, but anyway, queen h3, as I said, works out extremely well. It's an unusual move. And again, h5 is possible, but her opponent plays rook h6. And here Muzychuk comes up with a brilliant combination. It's beautifully calculated, really well calculated. Bishop takes pawn. This was the whole idea. Queen takes. And now here's the wonderful move. Rook d7. Excellent. So the rook slams down on the 7th rank. If queen takes queen, then it's mate in a few moves. Rook g6, that's the important one. Cuts off the rook's line and check. And rook f6 and mate next move. Bishop takes f6. So that's the first point. That's the easy one to spot. Now, black needs to defend the pawn on g7. Therefore, rook g6. And here it seems tempting just to exchange off and take on b7. In fact, in this case, let's just have a quick look. Although black is a pawn down, after h5, black is fine. The king finds security here, and then black can get counterplay. But Muzychuk had anticipated this, and after rook g6, she played queen b3 check, king h8, and then took on b7. So she's now a pawn up, but after bishop f2, it starts to get very tricky. I mean, it could be that the bishop just takes here and bounces around, and then everything's fine. But here is the next absolutely beautiful move. And she said that in her calculations before going in for this piece sack, she had found this move. She invested a lot of time. White to play. What are you going to do? Pawn to h5. This is a tremendous idea. This little pawn just tips black's position up. It just upsets black. It's a very fine move. And here's the point. Queen takes pawn. Queen f7. Obviously, if that's taken, then there's a back rank checkmate. And rook g8. Then we can take here. Rook takes this way. Queen takes wins. And rook takes. This is mate in a few moves. And mate next move. So nice bit of calculation there. So black played the rook to g3. And here, well, Muzychuk said she was very tempted by h6. And this does, at first glance, it looks so strong. It would be such a tempting move to play. But actually black survives after this. I mean, this needs serious calculation because it looks as though white should be winning somehow. It's very, very close. You know, if white breaks through, could be the end. But in fact, black is all right here. This needed serious calculation. And, well, apparently black is all right here. But instead, after rook g3, attacking the queen, a very cool move. Queen d5. And if bishop takes rook, h6, and there is no decent defense. Even though white is a rook down, there is no defense to all white's threats. So after queen d5, black played pawn to h6. And here, rook f1 is maybe the safe and sound way to win, but rook e2 was played. And, well, basically Muzychuk has calculated this perfectly, and it needed precise calculation. Rook g1 check, king d2. Now the point is that this bishop finds itself in a very embarrassing situation. It can't stay on this diagonal. You can see all the squares are covered. It has to come to h4. And now, what is white's move? Have a little think. The reason that this bishop was forced away is because queen d4 is now a killer move, attacking the rook, attacking the pawn on g7, and there's no good defense. If rook d8, pinning, got to calculate this one, then check, and now it's forced mate. This is really nice. We check the king round the corner, and boom, mate. Mate on h8. Rook c8 played. Still some calculation needed, because after queen takes g1, ooh, this is quite scary. Now, this wasn't left to chance, of course. In fact, the checks do run out. Just one more variation. If rook takes here, yes, the queen takes the rook, but bishop f6, and we can take this one. So here's how the game finished. Queen h3 check, king d4, another pretty random check, rook c4, king d5, and that was the final move of the game. Black resigned because, well, all the sensible checks have run out. Anna said after the game, well, in her annotations, she said, "I cannot recall any other game that I won by making a move with the king to the very centre with a board full of pieces. Thanks to several tactical blows and precise calculation, this game became one of the most beautiful games I have ever played." And, well said and well played to Anna Muzychuk. Brilliant calculation. And, well, great imagination as well. You know, when she played queen f1 to h3, I think a very unusual maneuver. She obviously had in mind this sacrifice on f5 and rook d7. Brilliant stuff. So I repeat, that won a special brilliancy prize in the Gibraltar Masters tournament way back at the end of January. So is that going to be on the final list that we vote on? Maybe. I thought that was pretty special. But once again, I'd like to invite your nominations for Game of the Year 2020. Have a good look around. There are actually quite a few tournaments played. Over the next few days, I'll be nominating some more games that I might include in the final selection. So watch out for those. But let's hear your suggestions.